tonight, but I'll just keep an eye on here, and then feel free anytime on my Facebook page, hurricanecity.com slash or Facebook. Here, we know for almost for certain that this is going to hit Great Abaco Island. That's almost a dead given. Like tomorrow afternoon, this is going to plow into Great Abaco. It may even be a Category 5 hurricane when that happens, and it's going to be absolutely devastating. They do not. I don't recall. There's been a lot of hurricanes that have hit Great Abaco Island. I'm going to show you the graphic on this. I don't know that any of them have sat over it for 24 hours, though. That's what's concerning me. I could see this hurricane sitting over Great Abaco for 24 to 30 hours. From the time the eye wall first approaches all the way through the back of the eye wall leaving could be as long as 30 hours. That's just going to be 150 mile an hour winds for that long of a period of time. Plus, the winds will be coming from all these different angles. Now, if the eye comes over Great Abaco, they're going to start with northeasterly winds. And then they're going to have northerly winds. Then they're going to have westerly winds. Then they're going to have southwest winds as it pulls away. So the winds are going to be coming tearing from all different directions for about 30 hours. And the carnage on that island, they were showing some video today from Great Abaco. Typical power poles, wooden power poles, and there's buildings are all shuttered, everything is abandoned. But I'm going to tell you something: the carnage there is just going to be, it's going to be really, really bad. I hope people have prepared really, really good with their structures, and I hope they're away from the low-lying areas, and they're using the evacuation shelters in the Bahamas and seeking higher ground, because the storm surge is going to be incredible. But before I get to the more specifics on Great Abaco, let me continue reading this advisory here. A hurricane warning is in effect for the Northwest Bahamas, excluding Andros Island. Now, that's the big island that's south of Grand Bahama Island. Nassau is just north of Andros Island, and I don't think that they're... I think Nassau is under a hurricane warning. I think Nassau is. It doesn't state it here. But I think Nassau is under a hurricane warning. I don't think they're going to get the bulk. I don't think they're going to get the core of this hurricane, though. It's going to pass well north of there. But that's my number 2 pick, by the way, Nassau, Bahamas this year. So they may or may not get impacted by this hurricane. It's remained to be seen. Andros, I don't see that happening. A hurricane watch is for Upper Andros. A tropical storm watch is in effect for Deerfield to Sebastian Inlet. That's from just south of me, maybe 10 miles south of where I'm sitting, all the way up to Stewart, Fort Pierce area, north of West Palm Beach. So that's the stretch of tropical storm force winds that are expected here, because as Hurricane Dorian is approaching, it's going to hit the brakes and turn north. So at its closest approach to Florida, it's going to be due east of here. So that's why they put tropical storm watches up, which I'm sure will probably become warnings tomorrow, especially if this gets anywhere near Grand Bahama Island. Then I think we're going to see gusts of tropical storm here on Monday and going into Tuesday, of course, as this is going to be a very slow mover, and it'll be expanding a little bit. Let's see. Interest elsewhere in the southern and central Florida peninsula should monitor the progress of Dorian. Additional watches may be required for portions of the east coast of Florida tonight or on Sunday. See if there's anything else, any important. See, the hurricane hunters are out there. I'm going to show you the hurricane hunter fixes here in a minute too, by the way. Hurricane conditions expected in the hurricane warning area tomorrow, with tropical storm force winds beginning tonight. So if they haven't already made their preparations before they go to bed in Great Abaco Island, it's too late. You wake up tomorrow morning, it's going to be blowing really hard there. So there's no point in, you might have a little, maybe even in between feeder bands, you might be able to make a few adjustments before the core gets there tomorrow afternoon. But starting tomorrow, it's going to get really ugly on Great Abaco Island. Storm surge. A life-threatening storm surge will raise water levels by as much as 10 to 15 feet above normal tide levels in the areas of the onshore winds, the Abacos, and Grand Bahama Island. Near the coast, the surge will be accompanied by large and destructive waves. Rainfall. Dorian is expected to produce the following rainfall accumulations this weekend into the middle of next week. Northwest Bahamas, 10 to 15 inches of rain. Isolated amounts up to 25 inches. Coastal sections of the southeastern United States, 4 to 8 inches of rain. Isolated up to 12. Central Bahamas, 2 to 4 inches. Isolated 6-inch amounts in some areas. The rainfall may cause life-threatening flash floods. Surf. Swells will begin to affect the east-facing shores of the Bahamas and the Florida East Coast and the southeastern United States during the next few days. These swells are likely to cause life-threatening surf and rip current conditions. And the next advisory, of course, is at 11 p.m., but I'll be off air by then. But before I get started on the graphics tonight, let me just mention I'm not really feeling that well tonight, so I'm going to kind of make it short. Last night I went for about an hour and a half. I should be wrapping up here probably in about a half an hour or so. I just want to get you some of the graphics and tell you just how bad it's going to be in Great Abaco Island and just how lucky the people in Florida are right now that this is happening, that this projected turn is going to take place. And I'm going to show you why that's going to happen and why the models are so tightly clustered on this solution of taking it off the coast of Florida and then eventually turning to the northeast when it gets off the southeastern United States. But you remember when this was back, when Dorian was in the Caribbean, and there was this whole debate about the unfavorable conditions in the Caribbean. And I was one that believed, and I'm on the message board saying it, I was on social media saying, this is much, they're making a bigger deal out of it than what it is. It's in an unfavorable environment of dry air. There's wind shear out in front of it. I didn't think it was going to be a hurricane until it got out of the Caribbean Sea. I said, if this becomes a hurricane before it leaves the Caribbean, I'll give a standing ovation to the National Hurricane Center because they were projecting this to be a hurricane well southeast of Puerto Rico. But the system waited until it got over St. Thomas, just east of Puerto Rico, to become a hurricane. Not only that, but this is critical. Remember when it was southeast of Puerto Rico by about, I don't know, it was near Martinique, St. Lucia, Martinique, and it reformed the center. The center was further west, and then the hurricane hunters flew it. They found the center reformed further northeast by about 100 miles. And then that caused the track to shift a little bit because the models were projecting it was going to move west-northwest, cut through the Mona Passage between Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. That didn't happen. So that adjustment, that relocation of the center at that particular time back, I don't know, what was it, the 26th or something? That changed this entire game. Had that relocation not happened, and had it not moved north-northwest instead of west-northwest, which it did, it moved over the St. Thomas and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then moved north of Puerto Rico, that was a game changer because when that happened, it made it much more further to the northeast than what the models were projecting, which was it was going to be in the eastern Bahamas as opposed to well northeast of the eastern Bahamas. That would have also put it further to the west than where it is right now. So literally, I believe if that center had not relocated and changed direction slightly as it approached St. Thomas and Puerto Rico, we would be talking about this hurricane right now that you're looking at tonight potentially sitting right on the coast of Florida here ready to strike tonight or tomorrow. That is the difference in what that jog and that relocation made that much of a difference in this track. And this is why as these hurricanes are roaming, these little subtle changes, we see it all the time. And when it comes to Florida, Florida is so lucky. I mean, look at Matthew. There was this bend that was supposed to take place that didn't, and it kind of moved northwest instead of west-northwest, which it was supposed to do when it got out of the Caribbean. It was supposed to kind of parallel the coast of Cuba and then come into Florida. That's what the models were indicating. No, it went northwest and stayed right off the coast of Florida. Then look at Irma 2 years ago. Irma 2017. That thing was programmed to come right through South Florida, Category 5, all the aviation, the GFS, We're indicating it's going to turn. It's going to come into southeast Florida. It would dip down into Cuba and then went up into the Keys and up the west coast of Florida. Huge difference. Just that little subtle track shift. Um, let's see. 1947, the most devastating hurricane ever hit here where I'm sitting. That hurricane was coming in, moving west-northwest, and all of a sudden it dipped off to the southwest, right into the state. Hurricane Wilma. That one was a Category 5 down in the Caribbean, hit the Yucatan Peninsula, sat there for almost 36 hours on the Yucatan. Had it not sat on the Yucatan for 36 hours, Hurricane Wilma may have been a Category 3 or 4 when it came through Florida. Instead, it was a Category 1/2 when it got to the east coast of Florida, coming from the southwest. Big difference in the amount of devastation that would have taken place. Katrina, 2005, same thing. It was supposed to move through. It could have strengthened earlier when it was in the Bahamas. It kind of procrastinated. It had a mid-level circulation, never really got its act together. Then it got its act together, but by then it was moving on shore, came into Fort Lauderdale, dipped down into Miami, and then exited into the Gulf of Mexico, and the rest is history. But you get my point. Florida has been so lucky with these hurricanes. Jean and Francis both could have intensified. They were large systems. They just kept stair-stepping and avoided South Florida. They got up in West Palm and the areas north of West Palm. Category 2, Category 3, could have been much worse. So there's a whole history of systems. Andrew, for all intents and purposes, was heading for the city of Miami and Fort Lauderdale. If Andrew had hit those areas, it would have been absolutely devastating. But it dipped to the south and went into South Dade and then reemerged in the Gulf of Mexico. So Florida has been very lucky, at least the really high population centers from all these hurricanes. And here we go again. We dodged a bullet. Had this hurricane not made those little adjustment tracks and stair-stepped and went more northeast, Florida would be staring down the barrel of a potential Category 5 coming into Florida tonight or tomorrow night, hypothetically, is what would have happened. So all the people that are complaining about the hurricane not hitting South Florida, just be thankful, because and especially the people that are new moving down here and the tourists and people, the interviews I'm seeing on the news today, people are kind of like, I just don't think that they understand the bullet that we dodged here with this hurricane. I just don't think. I think the people, the veterans in Florida, they get it. Like the people that have been here a long time, they know that they're extremely lucky. They're not mad that the hurricane didn't hit. They don't care about how many supplies and how many shutters they put up. They're just happy that thing is turning and it's not coming, because. And here's another thing. Matthew in 2016. That was another one that paralleled the coast of Florida, right? I don't think we're going to get as bad of weather here from this one as we got from Matthew, because Matthew came a lot closer to Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach than Dorian is going to come. So I think whatever we got from Matthew, if you were here from Matthew in 2016, that's about what you're going to get. Maybe even less conditions than that in South Florida. And then as we move up the coast, it's remained to be seen, because a lot of the models are indicating it's going to be further offshore than what Matthew was. So if you were up in Jacksonville, Daytona, New Smyrna Beach, I was in New Smyrna for Hurricane Matthew, and the winds were ferocious, but they were mainly offshore winds, minor damage, a few power lines down, signs blown down, things like that, but there was some surge flooding up in the Jacksonville area. There was some water that came in off the ocean and flooded some of the local streets, but it could have been far worse if the right front quadrant hit. So the right front quadrant is not going to hit the state of Florida. So this is probably not going to be as bad as Matthew, at least in Florida anyway. So we're going to get tropical storm force winds, maybe 4 to 8 inches of rain in a lot of areas, and some of these squall lines that are going to move through, but I don't think we dodged a major bullet in Florida. South Carolina, I'm not too worried about Georgia. None of the models are really plowing it into. There's a couple of them that are flirting with Georgia, but I'm thinking the Carolinas, if anybody, is going to have to deal with this right on the coast, and then it's supposed to hook off to the northeast. None of the models are really taking this up into New England. I've heard people always trying to push this New England theory. I don't see the models. Most of them are taking it and hooking it up into the Canadian Maritimes. I don't see anything up for Cape Cod or Massachusetts or, Long Island or anything like that. At least not at this point. That's subject to change, but I'm going to show you the models in just a minute. But that's my overall thinking. Florida dodged a bullet. Great Abaco is just going to absolutely get their asses kicked. I mean, there's just no way around this. Now, maybe tomorrow it'll stair step a little bit, maybe go north of there and spare them the eye. That's possible, but they're still going to get the southern eye wall. I was in the southern eye wall of Jean right here in Delray Beach. Jean hit just north of West Palm Beach as a Category 3. We had some pretty ferocious winds here in Delray Beach from that. And this one's going to be more powerful than that. So they're going to get, even if they don't get the eye in Great Abaco, they're going to get really strong southerly winds flowing into Abaco, and it's going to cause a lot of damage. So they're going to get really, really bad conditions there. The southeast, just keep an eye on it. Get your supplies. Be ready. I don't think it's a boarding up hurricane. I just don't see it being an intense major hurricane up there. So, but prepare if you're in a low-lying area, if you have loose objects, if you get your bottled water, get all your supplies ready for power outages and everything. But I don't think this is a boarded up hurricane. That was for Florida. If Florida was going to get hit, then you needed to board it up. But it's not. It looks like it's going to stay off the coast of Florida. I'm going to show you the ensembles, and I'm going to explain to you why this probably more than likely is not going to come on shore, Florida. So let's go ahead and see the graphics real quick and get started on this. So first, I wanted to show the. Let me minimize this. First, I wanted to show you my desktop. This is a really cool program. This comes with a HurTrack program, and the Hurricane Dorian is right there, right where my mouse pointer is, just east of Great Abaco Island. And yesterday it was like over here somewhere, so it's moving along. It's making progress, but that's a beautiful shot. Just you very rarely get a Category 4/5 hurricane on the desktop satellite, so I just wanted to share that with you. So let's go ahead and show you the. Here is the frame on the hurricane tracking page at Hurricane City. Now, you can find this in the drop-down menus at the top of Hurricane City. You just simply use the drop-down menu, go to hurricane tracking, and this page will come up. This is the close-up enhanced satellite, but let's go to the main map and show you the cone of error. And let's zoom in on this map. This is the beautiful thing about this map. It's zoomable. Okay, and you get right down almost to street level on this map. So here we are going into tomorrow morning. This is Great Abaco Island, where the red mark is here. And the population is 17,224 people. Now, there's a lot of really cool webcams. Just to let you know, tomorrow afternoon I plan on live broadcasting as this hurricane hits. Assuming it's going to be a hit tomorrow, it's looking like 2 to 3 p.m. is when the worst conditions are going to be there. And we'll try to stream all these webcams and radio stations and radar. Well, there's no radars from there, but satellite, close-up satellites and Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds, whatever video comes out of there. There's several storm chasers that are over there. They're going to be producing some videos. So it looks like Josh Morgan is already over there. Jim Eds is already over there, and Reed Timmer was on his way there. I don't know if he made it over there yet. And I know there a couple of these guys don't travel alone. So there's probably up to a dozen, maybe 7 to 10, maybe storm chasers that are on the island. Talked to Tim Millar. He's not going to be there. He usually travels with these guys from the what's that group? The Live Storms Media, and I don't think that they're going to be over there in N.W Bahamas Island. By the way, if you have a comment tonight, just comment on my Facebook page right below the video, the live video stream, and let me know what your opinions are, what you're seeing, if you have any questions, and blah, blah, blah. All right, so here we are. Now, the best performing models are right above Abaco Island, so this is why I'm thinking there's a possibility this might miss, even though, like I said, The southerly, they're going to get the southern eye wall no matter what, even if the eye doesn't hit Great Abaco Island. But the three best performing models over the past 24 hours are the Canadian model, the CEMN, which is another version of the Canadian model, the CMC, which is the Canadian model, another Canadian model, and the, what's this one here? The TVCX model. So these best performers right here, and then of course the worst, the number 4 performer is way down here, and that's the European, which has been the fourth best performer over the past 24 hours. So there they are. There's the European to the south. Again, sharp right-hand turn and almost due north over Grand Bahama Island. And the other models kind of take it just north of Great Abaco. So let's pan this out now, and let's go over towards Florida. Notice the Nassau down here, they're not even in the cone at this point, so I don't think they're really going to get impacted. Same thing with the Luther Island down here. I don't see them getting impacted by really much as this passes well to the north. So look at the edge of the cone. Here is the edge of the cone stretching. Of course, I'm right here in Delray Beach. Let me annotate this here. Yeah, might as well use the green. Okay, so I'm right here, and I'm about a mile away from the ocean, by the way. And here's your cone of air right out here. So if you're in Boynton, you're outside the cone. Lake Worth, you're outside the cone. West Palm Beach, you're still in the cone. Palm Beach Gardens, still in the cone. So, you know, that could be cleared tomorrow morning, or at least by afternoon tomorrow. That cone might even shift even further east. Jupiter, you might be out of it by tomorrow. But you can see the cone stretches if we pan out. See, almost the northern half of Florida is still in the cone here, most of North Florida. And then, of course, the models are out over the water, and the official forecast track is out over the water. So we're talking about, 60 miles off the coast or more is what the official forecast track is right now for Florida. About 60 miles off the coast. And then it gets off of South Carolina, and it's the same thing, about 60 miles off the coast, according to the National Hurricane Center official forecast. And then we get up, and this is going into Wednesday, Thursday time frame here. And then at the end of the forecast period, we see it's a Category 2 hurricane here just east of Wilmington. By the way, Wilmington is in my top 5 again this year. It's number 4 on my list. I even told Mark Sudduth when I had lunch with him a couple of months ago, we had lunch together, and I told him, your area is in my top 5 again. And last year it was my number 1 area for the U.S., and it was hit by Florence. And I said, Wilmington's not off the hook. I think they're going to get hit again this year. So that might happen again coming up here in this long-range track. But notice the cone and the models are trending towards taking this on out. It's not going to ride up the coast towards New England. At least that's not the way it looks right now. All right, let's check quickly while I have this map up. I want to check the recon. So let's get that loaded up and see what the recon is finding out there right now. Oh, that's the high-altitude aircraft. Okay, the high-altitude aircraft, what this aircraft does is they fly around the perimeter of the hurricane, and they sample the surrounding environment with the high pressures, low pressures, and take readings of what's happening in the surrounding environment. And that goes into the models for tomorrow's models. So this is a very important surveillance mission by the high-altitude aircraft, but this does not fly into the storm. That's the other missions, which is Mission 26. Let's go ahead and pull that one up. And this is real time, by the way. It refreshes automatically, so you don't have to keep hitting refresh. So they're out there sampling it right now. There's the plane flying around, and I'm guessing the center is somewhere right in here. And let's check some of these observations. Let's see. 78 miles an hour. There's 140 mile an hour wind right near the eye wall there. Let's see, just north of the eye wall, we have 150 mile an hour winds. That's at flight level. The surface winds are 130. Here we go. Surface wind 152 miles an hour. See if there's anything higher. Yeah, here's one. No, that's, oh wow. SFMR peak surface wind 170 miles an hour. Wow. That is right there, right where my mouse pointer is, just north of where the eye wall is. There's no vortex message on the screen yet, so I don't know exactly where the center is on this graphic, but man, 170 mile an hour surface winds. That's unbelievable. Now let's go south of the center, because this is what Abaco is mainly going to be feeling. Here we go. Surface winds 135, 140. That's ferocious. 123. We have northwest winds at about 100. Let's zoom in some more. Surface winds 100. So 100 mile an hour winds are from the northwest. We've got 115 mile an hour winds blowing from the west. We've got 140 mile an hour winds blowing in from the southeast, and we've got 170 mile an hour winds blowing in from the east on the north side of the eye wall. So if you're on the north side of this, you're going to get Category 5 winds. That's 170 miles an hour. That's unbelievable. Just north of the center here. Wow. Okay, so let me show you some images here tonight. Okay, hoping you can see this. Let's give it a minute to load. Come on, don't be bashful. Okay, here we go. All right, here is the shot from the HER-Track program. And this is where the approach to Abaco Island is tomorrow afternoon. This is at 4 p.m. actually. This is based on the 5 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. The forecast track is showing 150 mile an hour winds. And again, I think this could be Cat 5 by then, because based on that SFMR reading that I just showed you, 170 miles an hour, they might up this to a Category 5 at 11 p.m. tonight. The eye is right over at 4 p.m. tomorrow, right just north of central Abaco Island. Now, if this happens, the entire island is going to get walloped. If this forecast track pans out, we'll see where this is tomorrow morning. In fact, tomorrow morning I'll be sending out to my mailing list the updated graphic of this, and we'll know for sure by tomorrow morning where this is going to make landfall in Great Abaco Island. Let's hope it's further north, but if it's in this position or further south, they're going to absolutely get annihilated on that island tomorrow afternoon, and I'll be covering it live as it happens. So that's the forecast, and that's the size. That red circle is all hurricane force winds. That bright red donut is all the winds that I was just reading to you on the recon program. That's in that red circle. The skinny red line is hurricane force winds sustained. When you go out to the aqua circle out here, that's tropical storm force sustained winds up to hurricane force. And then the yellow circle are just gusts to tropical storm force winds. So Eleuthera is probably going to get some gusts to tropical storm force. Abaco is absolutely going to get annihilated, and it remains to be seen. It's supposed to pass over eastern Grand Bahama Island, so Grand Bahama also will probably get walloped by this system as well. Let's hope it makes that northeast turn, or that turn to the northwest before it gets to Grand Bahama Island. And at that point tomorrow, it'll be 156 miles to the east of me here in Delray Beach. It'll be 156 miles to the east, and it'll be moving off in the northwest direction. Now, again, that European model wants to take it here south of Grand Bahama Island, rather, and then north. Okay, let's okay, this image right here is the aviation model ensembles. This is this is from the 2 p.m. this afternoon, I believe. These models are let me just check my volume levels here real quick, folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Yep, there it is. This image right here is the. I just had to make sure my volume levels are up because sometimes I do these shows and we don't have any volume. Okay, these are all the aviation ensemble models that you're looking at here. The GFS model, which is the main model that the National Hurricane Center likes to use along with the European model, has a group of ensemble models. There's 20 of them listed here. These are the sub-models within the main GFS model that take different types of readings and have used different types of mathematics to arrive at a conclusion on where the track is going to go. And then it goes into the operational model of the GFS, which I'll show you that graphic in just a minute. But these are all 20 of those models, and you can see only a couple of them here take it onshore, Florida, and the Georgia coastline. The majority of them take it offshore or just touching South Carolina coastline. That's the aviation ensemble models. And again, these are subject to change. Let me go back. Okay, these are the European ensembles. Now, the European model has 50 members. So these are all 50. You notice there's still a couple that want to take it into South Florida, which it's just not going to happen. There's a couple that still want to take it into the Palm Beach area, Vero Beach, and then right up the coast. But by 95% of the ensemble models are offshore of the East Coast. Even out when it makes the turn off of the southeastern coastline, the far majority of these ensemble models are offshore, with the exception of a couple of them that take it onshore. And again, by the time it gets up this way, it is forecast to be in the Category 2 range. So this is good news for anybody in the southeast that at the very worst, it looks like this could be a Matthew situation for the southeastern United States. Not for Florida. I don't think it's going to be as bad as Matthew for Florida. But for the southeast, I think this could be Matthew or less. Unless if all these ensembles take place out here, it's going to be less than what Matthew did for the southeast, which would be really, really good news for the southeast. Not that you're in the clear or anything. Everybody's going to have to deal with rainfall, some high surf, very strong gusty winds, but it's not going to be the catastrophic thing where you need to shutter your house and people are going to die and roofs are going to get ripped off and that sort of thing. It's just not going to be that kind of a hurricane for the southeast if these models do play out. All right, here are the operational models. All right, we have the main models. These are the ones you hear about all the time. The Canadian model, the European model, the NavGem, the UK Met, the GFS. So here they are. The GFS is the orange track, keeps it offshore, actually takes it just north of Great Abaco Island in the morning, which would be better news. I mean, I don't think there's any good news for Great Abaco. They're going to get walloped one way or the other. But it's better news for Grand Bahama. It does move further north of Grand Bahama. Then it stays off the coast by about 60 to 80 miles and then hooks. It gets a little closer to the coast when it gets up into the Carolina area. And then we'll have to see what happens from there. So that's the GFS. The Canadian model, which is the CMC, still wants to take this into the Cape Canaveral, Daytona area and then ride up the coast and straddle the entire coastline. That's the Canadian. The NavGem is the dark green one, which takes it over Great Abaco, over Grand Bahama. I'm sorry, that's not the NavGem. The NavGem is the NavGem is the bright green line. So the NavGem is taking it over those two islands in the Bahamas and then staying way offshore the Carolinas until it gets up to North Carolina. Then it wants to move inland, like around the Wilmington, Morehead City area somewhere. So we'll see about that. The UK Met is the dark green model that's in between the Canadian and the NAV and it does have it hitting both of the islands tomorrow morning. Has it turning north, going about 50 miles off the coast of Florida, and then turning northeast, staying off the coast of the Carolinas, and then eventually working towards North Carolina. The GFS is the orange. I already mentioned that at the beginning. That one takes it north of the islands there and then keeps it right off the coast of North Carolina. So which of these models is the best? And by far, the European model is the best model of all of these models. And let me use the dark red. Let me use the red, and let me change the thickness here so you can see what I'm talking about. So here's the European model out here. European takes it right over those islands, then goes up like this and keeps it somewhere like this. That is the best performer model out of all of these other models I just mentioned to you. It's off by 181 miles at 5 days. Now you compare that to the Canadian model that takes it into Florida over here, this model. That model is off by 329 miles at 5 days. So that's off by almost twice as bad as the European model is. So you can kind of dismiss this in a way. That model has just been performing. The Canadian model has not done well on the system at all. So you can kind of discontinue the Canadian. The NavGem is even worse, 334. So the bright green line, you can forget that one. The UK Met is the second best performer, and that's this dark line right here. And that stops it like right there, I think. It's as far as it goes, but it does take it over both Grand Bahama and Great Abaco down here. And the Aviation is the third best performer, and that's the orange track up in here, like this. So all these red tracks are basically the ones that you really want to put stock in. These three red lines here are the best performers of the whole group, and they're all keeping it about 50 to 100 miles off the coast of Florida, about 50 to 60 miles off the coast of the Carolinas. Then when it gets up into North Carolina, up in here, it's a little uncertain, and it might actually hit the Outer Banks or eastern North Carolina, probably as a Category 2 or a Category 1. That's remained to be seen what the intensity is going to be. Okay, one more image I want to show you. This is a graphic that I created for all of the major hurricanes that have hit in the Atlantic Basin since 1871. And Great Abaco Island has been hit directly by 20 major hurricanes. That comes out to an average of once every 7.3 years. This is the most hit area, most hit island landmass anywhere in the Atlantic Basin by majors. They get hit by hurricanes about every 3.7 years, but when it comes to majors, it's once every 7.3 years. And when it comes to all named storms, they get hit once every 1.80 years. So almost every other year, Great Abaco Island is being impacted by a named storm. But every 7 years, the eye wall of a major hurricane comes plowing through there. Now, I had a discussion the other day on Twitter with Todd Kimberlin from the National Hurricane Center, and he was pointing out that Palm Beach County has, in fact, let me finish this thought and then I'll get off of this graphic. He was saying that Palm Beach County, the last time Palm Beach County was hit by a major was all the way back to 1928. I think he was referring to the 28 hurricane. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's not really accurate, because what he's trying to do is he's trying to include the eye of the hurricane as being a hit. And this is, the Hurricane Center, the authorities and the officials in this industry and me don't disagree on what constitutes a hit, because you ask people in, let me just give you an example. Ask people in, let's say, let me give you an example of, all right, let's use Matthew for an example. Let's use Matthew for an example. Matthew's a good example. 2016. Matthew was right off the coast of Florida, and it made landfall in South Carolina. But here's the thing about Matthew. The eye was right off the coast of Florida, but that eye wall of that hurricane, when it was a Category 3 hurricane, was right on the coast. So it rode all the way up the coast. That eye wall was on shore. So that technically is a hit because everybody had to deal with the wind surrounding that eye wall. That eye. They were in the eye wall of a hurricane. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're in the eye wall for more than a few hours, you're hit by that hurricane. Look at the people. Look at Andrew, for example. If you're going to include only being hit because the eye hit, then you could discount Florida City. I don't think Florida City had the eye pass over. You could discount Kendall. I don't think Kendall had the eye passing over. You could discount Cutler Ridge. No, Cutler Ridge did get the eye, and Homestead got the eye. But I don't think that Kendall got the eye, and I don't think that Florida City or Key Largo got the eye of Hurricane Andrew. So are you going to tell those people they weren't hit by Hurricane Andrew? Of course they were. Just because they didn't get the eye doesn't mean they weren't hit by the hurricane. Now, if you want to say North Miami, then you could argue, yeah, that you weren't hit by Andrew because that was a brush. But there's a big difference between a brush and a hit. But according to the National Hurricane Center, they like to talk about a hit as that eye, that little donut hole, which sometimes is only 10 or 15 miles wide, and you're going to count that as the hit. If the eye doesn't hit, it's not a hit. I just disagree with that concept. I completely disagree with that concept. In 1947, the Great Hurricane in 1947 came from the northeast, and it went southwest right across Delray Beach, Boca Raton, Deerfield Beach, came into Broward. The eye made landfall in Broward County. But are you going to seriously tell me that Palm Beach County was not hit by a major hurricane because the eye went down into Broward? Delray Beach was wiped off the map. Like, Delray Beach was completely wiped out even though they didn't get the eye. So the notion that you have to have an eye to call it a hit, to me, is ludicrous. So this graphic you're looking at up on the screen accounts for the eye wall, which constitutes a hit. Some of these hits lasted 12 hours. Some of them only lasted 3 hours, but nevertheless, they were hits. Eleuthera is number 2. Key Largo, number 3. Grand Bahama Island, number 4. So all these areas that are being impacted, except for Key Largo here tomorrow, all have a history of majors frequently passing over these islands. Bimini, which is right off the coast of Florida, is number 5. And on and on and on. You can see this list in the drop-down menu when you go to the rankings page and you click if this was made for hurricanes only. This is what it would look like. So that's the list. By the way, Fort Lauderdale is down at the bottom there. 25 hurricanes and 11 majors since 1871. That's about every 13 years or so. On average, Fort Lauderdale gets the eye wall of a major hurricane. Okay, so let's stop that share. Let me check some of my messages here and see what people are talking about. Got 14 comments on here, so let's start with Bill Narr. Bob Seitz and 2 other people are watching. I'm sure there's a lot more than that. It's just that they're commenting that they're watching. Greg Machos, same thing happened with the strength of Katrina prior to landfall. Sandy 2. Jeff Lockwood, the eye of Dorian now on the Bahamas radar. Jeff, where are you getting the Bahamas radar? Because I haven't been able to find it. Jeff, Jeff, can you please email me with the link for that radar, the Bahamas radar? Because I'd like to get access to that if you have that. Or maybe you just heard that from the Hurricane Center. I don't know. But if you have a visual on it, please send it to me. I'd like to have it. Oh, he sent it. He said, wait a minute. Okay, he sent me the link. I'll have to check it out. I wasn't able to get a radar on the Bahamas weather site. I'll check it out later, Jeff. I appreciate that. Christopher Hollis, eye coming on Bahamas radar. Again, he just listed me. Okay, Chris, thank you very much. Chris sent me the radar link, so I'll check that out. You know what? Let's see if we can pull that up. That's a good idea. Let me see if I can pull this up here. Okay, let's go to Facebook, and I'll have to mute the video. Come on. Well, you know what? I won't have to mute the video because it doesn't get the sound anyways. Okay. Radar's Bahamas composite radar. Let me pull that up. Ah, yes. There it is. All right, there it is on radar, coming in now. Wow, that's amazing. I'll have to link to that because I couldn't find that anywhere. I guess they just activated it or something. I couldn't find it earlier today. That's awesome. Looks like it's moving due west, too. Wow. Marsh Harbor right out in front of it. I know the local TV stations, WPLG, I think, and one of the West Palm stations has reporters in Great Abaco Island, so they'll be reporting live tomorrow as well. So I'll have coverage on that, by the way. But yeah, I really appreciate that radar composite. I'll be checking that out, and I'll be linking to that. All right. So anyway, what else? Is there something else I needed to say here? Great notes. Oh, did anybody catch the Weather Channel today? There was an interview. The reporters were there, and they were interviewing somebody in Fort Pierce, I believe. Fort Pierce, which is just north of here by about 20 miles up the road. And so they were asking the people that own this restaurant, what do you do when hurricanes come? And they said, oh, we take the windows out and we stack them in a back room somewhere and we let the wind blow through the restaurant. Our engineer told us to do this. I was dumb. I couldn't believe it when I heard this. I'm like, this engineer needs to be fired. I mean, you cannot let the wind in your building because the first thing that's going to happen is the ceiling's going to blow up and the roof might blow off the building because the pressure, and not only that, but it's going to take all that projectile inside your house or your business, anything that's loose, and it's going to fling it and put holes in the walls and everything else. Terrible, terrible idea. Is removing your windows is the most stupid thing I've ever heard. I can't believe, and it's a sports bar. It's a big sports bar. Like, I can't believe that they were doing this. It was just the most asinine thing I've ever heard. Yeah, I talked about how bad it could have been in South Florida. All right. Anyway, that's it. Again, tomorrow, what I'm gonna do is I'll be on here live tomorrow afternoon, covering the landfall of Great Abaco Island because this is gonna happen starting around 3 p.m. It might be earlier, it might be later, depending on the forward speed. When the core is arriving, I'll start covering it. We'll have Bahamas radar. We'll have the radio stations. There's a bunch of really cool webcams from Great Abaco Island. I'll be streaming those tomorrow. We'll record it all for the archives. Well, not the archives, but for our archive page that I have set up. All the past hurricanes. You go back, use the drop-down menus at Hurricane City. There's all these really cool shows from the past. We go back 20 years doing these shows, covering hurricanes from the islands, from the states, all over the place. Radars, weather cams, storm chasers, the whole 9 yards. Try to put a smorgasbord of video together of what happened in those storms. So that's in the archive page and the drop-down menus at Hurricane City. So I think that's it. There's anything else I'm forgetting here? Nope, that's it. Again, that European model is the best performer. That's the one you really need to pay attention to, followed by the UK Met. And then the aviation, the GFS right after that. Those are the three really that you need to pay attention to as far as future track. So here's the plans. Again, tomorrow afternoon I'll be covering Hurricane Dorian hitting Great Abaco Island. It's not going to be like a traditional broadcast where I'm sitting here talking the whole time. It's going to be more or less me just pulling up media from the affected areas and hitting the record button so that I can edit it all down when the storm's over and make a nice production out of it. And then I don't think I'll be live tomorrow night. And the reason is because I'll be exhausted. These things are tiring. So I'm not going to be live tomorrow night. But the following night, which will be Monday night, that'll be the night that we'll be getting the worst weather here in Delray, so I'll be able to speak on that a little bit. I'll show you my tower cam outside, and then we're going to start really homing in on what areas of the United States are going to be impacted by this hurricane. Is anybody going to get the eye of this hurricane? That's remained to be seen in the states. So I'll cover that extensively Monday night, Tuesday night if need be, through the week or whatever. We'll see what happens. But anyway, that's it for now. I'm Jim Williams, HurricaneCity.com. Spread the word around about these shows. Check them out on a nightly basis. Again, tomorrow night I won't be here, but Monday night, check it out, 8 p.m. Best of luck to the people in Grand Bahama Island tonight. It's going to be really, really bad. A lot of devastation. There's probably going to be some people that may get killed on that island tomorrow. Let's hope that doesn't happen. The Bahamians are very savvy when it comes to hurricanes. They have really well-built houses. They've been through this. This isn't their first rodeo. They're very used to this kind of thing, so they know what to do. Wayne Neely from the Department of Meteorology of the Bahamas, him and I talk and we go way back, and he's written books on the people that have survived some tremendous hurricanes over the years. So this is not their first rodeo. They're used to it. But let's just hope everybody's safe in Great Abaco, and we'll see what happens tomorrow afternoon as this all plays out. All right. Good evening, everybody. And again, spread the word about Hurricane City. Thank you for watching.